Evan worked alone inside his small dusty garage on the edge of the frontier town. His hands were black with machine oil, and the smell of metal filled the air. He was a quiet human mechanic who fixed old engines, alien machines, and anything people brought to him. The long night was calm. Only the sound of tools clicking echoed softly inside the workshop. Outside, the desert wind moved slowly over the empty road. Evan wiped sweat from his forehead and prepared to close the garage for the night. He reached for the lights, but suddenly the whole ground shook under his feet. A deep rumble came from the sky. It was not thunder. It sounded like a giant engine coming closer and closer. Evan stepped outside and looked up with wide eyes. A huge alien royal starship was descending from the clouds, its bright lights cutting through the night like swords. The ground vibrated like an earthquake as the ship landed right outside his garage. Dust and sand blew everywhere, covering the old metal signs and broken cars outside. Evan covered his face and watched in confusion. He had never seen a ship this big on this small planet. The starship doors opened with a long metallic hiss. A group of alien royal guards stepped out, their silver armor shining in the desert moonlight. They marched toward Evan without a word. Their steps were heavy and cold. The leader guard pointed at Evan and told 2 soldiers to bring something from the ship. The guards returned carrying a massive metal crate almost as tall as Evan. They dropped it in front of him with a loud thud that echoed across the empty road. Evan stared at the crate. It shook slightly as if something inside was alive. The leader guard smirked and said the emperor of their empire had sent him a special gift. His tone had a cruel laugh hidden behind the words. Evan asked what was inside, but the guards ignored his question. They simply turned around and walked back toward their starship. Their boots hit the ground hard, leaving marks in the sand before entering their ship. One guard looked back and said in a mocking voice, "Enjoy your new friend." Human. The starship's engines roared again as it lifted off the ground. The bright lights disappeared into the dark sky. Silence returned to the desert. Evan was left alone with the huge crate. The night felt heavier now. The wind was colder. He slowly approached the crate and placed his hand on the metal surface. It was warm. Something inside breathed softly. Evan felt a strange tightness in his chest. He grabbed a wrench, unlocked the crate's giant locks, and pulled the door open. A soft glow spilled out inside. Sitting in the corner with chains around her wrists and ankles was a large alien woman. Her body was big and round, her breathing heavy from the long travel. Her skin had a gentle blue shade, and her eyes shined like wet silver. She looked up at Evan with fear, confusion, and shame mixed together. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Please, do not hurt me." Evan froze. He did not expect a living being, especially not someone who looked terrified. He kneeled down slowly and told her he would not hurt her. He asked her name. She looked down, ashamed, and said softly, "Lyria, daughter of the emperor." Evan's mind shook. The emperor's daughter, sent here in a crate, chained like an object. The crate walls were covered with scratches and marks from her struggle. Lyria lowered her head and whispered again, "They sent me because I am considered a joke." Her voice cracked with pain. Evan felt anger burning inside him. Someone had treated her like she was not a person. He looked at her chains and then at her frightened eyes. Something inside him whispered that this gift was not a gift at all. It was a warning, a trap, or something worse. And deep in his heart, Evan felt the start of a dangerous story he could not escape now. Evan couldn't stop staring at the woman before him. Lyria, the daughter of the emperor. He could hardly believe it. She was massive, her body taking up more space in the crate than he expected. Her skin shimmered a soft blue, her eyes wide with fear, and her breathing was heavy. It was clear she had been through something terrible. "I'm not a monster," Lyria whispered, her voice trembling. I don't fit their idea of what I should be." Evan kneeled down beside her, feeling awkward, unsure how to comfort someone who had been treated like an object. He saw the chains on her wrists and ankles, the bruises on her skin. His hands clenched in anger, but he pushed it aside. "This wasn't the time for rage. I won't hurt you," Evan said softly. "Who did this to you?" Lyria flinched at his words, as if afraid even his voice might turn against her. "My father," she replied. "The Emperor. He called me a joke. He said I was a failure, my body. It's different." Evan didn't understand what she meant, but he could see the shame in her eyes. She wasn't just physically different. Something inside her was more than what she appeared. "Why did he send you here?" Evan asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Her gaze dropped to the ground. "Because I'm dangerous. Because my size. It gives me power I don't understand. I was supposed to be an example. A reminder of what happens when you fail." Evan was silent for a moment, trying to process what she said. It made no sense. How could anyone treat their own child like that? But something about her. There was something more. Her size wasn't just a curse. It was a sign of something deeper. "Can you stand?" Evan asked, breaking the silence. Lyria slowly nodded, then struggled to her feet. Her chains clinked as she moved. She seemed heavy, not just in body, but in spirit. Like the weight of her own existence was pressing down on her. Evan reached out to help her, but the moment his fingers brushed her skin, a strange energy pulsed through him. It was like electricity, buzzing in the air, causing his skin to tingle. Lyria gasped and pulled back, eyes wide. You felt that?" Evan looked at her in confusion. "What was that?" "That's my power," she explained quietly, her voice full of fear. "It awakens when I'm touched, when I'm stressed, or when I feel threatened. My body stores energy power that can destroy. The Emperor feared me because of it." Evan stepped back, a bit unsettled by the raw energy that seemed to radiate from her. But instead of feeling afraid, he felt a strange pull. She wasn't just a broken, abandoned princess. There was something else to her, something more. "How long have you been alone?" Evan asked, his voice softer now. "Too long," she answered, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know how to control this. They say I'm a monster, that I'm dangerous. They're right. I don't even know how to stop it." Evan's heart ached for her. She didn't deserve any of this. She had been treated like a thing, not a person. But in that moment, Evan knew he couldn't just turn his back. He had to help her. He had to figure out what this power was and how to control it. "I'm not afraid of you," Evan said firmly, his voice steady. "You don't have to be afraid of yourself. I'll help you." Lyria looked at him, her expression softening. "Why? Why would you help me?" Evan smiled faintly. "Because I know what it feels like to be underestimated. To be seen as something you're not. And you're more than what they've told you." Her eyes searched his face, as if looking for something in his words. For a moment, they just stood there, both feeling the weight of the situation. Then, slowly, Lyria nodded. "I'll try," she said softly, her voice still full of doubt. "But I don't know if I can control it. I'm afraid of what might happen if I do." Evan stepped closer. "We'll figure it out together." And in that moment, Evan knew that their lives were about to change forever. Something much bigger than either of them was coming, and he had no idea what it would bring. But one thing was clear: Lyria was no longer the Emperor's joke. She was his responsibility now, and he would protect her at all costs. The night outside Evan's garage had turned strangely still. The wind had stopped. Even the sand in the desert seemed to wait for something. Lyria sat on a chair Evan brought for her hands shaking as he worked on removing the chains from her wrists. Evan kept glancing at the door. Something felt wrong. Ever since the starship left, the silence felt unnatural, too heavy. Like the air was holding its breath. "You're safe here," Evan said quietly. Though even he wasn't fully sure, Lyria nodded slowly, but her eyes were distant. "No place is safe for me," she whispered. "Not when they want me gone." Evan was about to respond when he heard it. A soft clicking sound outside the garage. Not the sound of wind, not an animal. A mechanical click. And then another dot. He froze. "Stay here," he said quickly. But Lyria grabbed his arm. "No, Evan. Someone followed the ship. They always follow." Before he could ask what she meant, a bright red laser dot appeared on the garage wall. Evan's heart slammed in his chest. Someone was targeting them. He dove forward and pulled Lyria behind a stack of metal crates. A second later, the garage door exploded inward, sending dust and metal flying. Several shadowy figures in dark armor stepped through the smoke, armed with alien rifles. Their helmets glowed with red lines, scanning the room. "Where is the Emperor's reject?" One of them growled. Lyria covered her mouth, trying not to make a sound. Evan clenched his jaw. He grabbed a long metal wrench lying near the floor and waited. Another blast shook the garage, breaking old tools and smashing the windows. The attackers moved deeper inside, checking every corner. Evan whispered, "We need to move." Lyria shook her head. "They want me. If I go out, they'll kill you." Evan glared at her gently. "And if you stay here, they'll kill both of us." Her eyes softened with fear and guilt. He signaled her to crawl toward the back door. But as she moved, one of the armored soldiers spotted the motion. "There!" he yelled. A laser shot blasted past them, burning a hole in the metal floor. Lyria screamed and threw her hands up. Her body reacted instantly. Her skin started glowing with a soft, trembling light. Evan felt the air shake around her. "Lyria, stop, breathe," he said, gripping her shoulder. But her power was waking on its own. The attackers charged forward. Evan swung the wrench at the nearest one, hitting the side of his helmet hard. The soldier stumbled, but another punched Evan in the ribs, sending him to the floor. Lyria cried out, and the glow around her body grew brighter. A deep hum filled the air, like a storm trapped inside her chest. The soldiers panicked. "She's activating. Restrain her." But it was too late. A sudden shockwave exploded from Lyria's body, a blast of pure energy that filled the entire garage. The attackers were thrown backward like rag dolls, slamming into walls and crashing through broken windows. Sparks flew, lights shattered, and metal screeched as everything shook violently. Evan shielded his face, feeling the wave push him back. It was like standing in front of a giant engine releasing all its power at once. Then, as suddenly as it started, the glow faded. Lyria collapsed to her knees, her body trembling. Evan crawled toward her and caught her before she fell completely. I didn't mean to," she whispered. "I can't control it." Evan held her tightly. "You protected us. That's what matters." But Lyria wasn't listening. She looked at the fallen soldiers with horror in her eyes. "They won't stop," she whispered. "If bounty hunters found us this fast, more will come. Stronger ones." Evan looked around at the destroyed garage. His safe place, his quiet world, it was all gone. He knew she was right. Someone wanted Lyria captured. Someone wanted her dead. And the attack tonight was only the beginning. As the dust settled, Evan helped her stand, both of them trembling. "We leave tonight," he said quietly, "before the next ship arrives." Lyria looked at him with fear and gratitude mixed together. "You're risking everything for me," she whispered. Evan shook his head. "No, I'm doing what's right." But deep inside, he knew the truth. Their fight had just begun. Evan worked quickly, grabbing tools, bags, and whatever supplies he could carry. The garage was half destroyed. Glass all over the floor, machines broken, walls cracked. Lyria stood near the door, still shaking from the energy blast she had released. She hugged her arms around her large body, as if trying to make herself smaller. But she couldn't. She had never been small, never invisible. And now, every hunter in the galaxy might be coming for her. Evan noticed her fear. "You're not alone," he said gently. "I won't let anyone take you." Lyria looked at him as if she didn't understand why he cared. No one had ever stood between her and danger before. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she whispered. "But they always said I was a threat." "A mistake." Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. The moment he touched her, a faint spark of energy moved under her skin. But it didn't explode this time. It felt controlled. "Gentle, help me search the crate," Evan said. "There must be something they left behind." Lyria nodded and walked with him to the massive metal container she had been delivered in. The chain still lay on the floor beside it, cold and cruel. Evan climbed inside first. He used a flashlight to look at the walls. Something caught his eye, a hidden metal panel on the back. Almost invisible, he pried it open with a crowbar. Inside was a sealed case with royal symbols. Lyria gasped. "That is my father's crest." Evan opened the case slowly. Inside were documents official, stamped with the Emperor's seal. Evan picked up the first one. His eyes widened as he read. They weren't sending you away as a joke," Evan whispered. Lyria trembled. "What do you mean?" Evan read the words out loud, each one heavier than the last. "Operation Silent Crown. Remove subject Lyria from Imperial territory. Ensure no return. Subject 2 unstable. Potential air threat." Lyria's breath caught. He thought I wanted his throne?" she asked in a broken voice. Evan shook his head. "No, he feared you. Not because you're weak. Because you're powerful." Lyria's knees weakened, and she sat heavily on the crate floor. Her eyes filled with tears. "All my life," she whispered, "they mocked me. They laughed at my size. They said I was useless. But all this time, my father feared me." Evan sat beside her. "He didn't want anyone to know you have this power," he said. "If you learn to control it, you could be stronger than him." Lyria covered her face with her hands, her large body shaking softly. "I never wanted to rule anything. I only wanted to be accepted." Evan felt anger burning through him. Not at Lyria, but at the Emperor who treated his own daughter like trash, like a threat, like a mistake. "You deserve better," Evan said. "Much better." Lyria lowered her hands, her silver eyes wet. "Why do you say that? You don't even know me." Evan looked at her gently. "I know enough. I know you're kind. I know you save people even when you're scared. And I know your power isn't evil. It's just uncontrolled." Lyria stared at him, struggling to understand why a human mechanic would defend her more than her own empire ever had. Evan stood up and reached for her. "Come on," he said. "I can rebuild the garage into a safe place. A place where you can learn control. A place where they can't hurt you." Lyria hesitated. "You would do all this for me?" "Yes," Evan replied simply. Lyria slowly stood, her heavy body moving with effort, but also with new strength. As they walked deeper into the garage ruins, Evan pointed out a hidden basement door. "We can hide here," he said. "I can upgrade the garage, reinforce it, build shields, teach you how to use your power." For the first time, Lyria's eyes warmed not with fear, but with hope. "You believe in me," she whispered. Evan smiled gently. "Someone has to." But outside, far above the desert sky, several red lights blinked in the distance. More ships. More soldiers, more danger. And the Emperor's plan was far from over. For 2 days, Evan worked nonstop inside the broken garage. Sparks flew, metal clanged, and tools hummed as he rebuilt everything with new strength. He turned old machines into shields, turned scrap parts into traps, and turned the basement into a safe room. Lyria helped where she could. though her body was heavy and her movements slow. But her eyes stayed alert, watching Evan like he was the only steady thing in her world. "You don't have to do all this," she said softly one evening. Evan wiped sweat from his forehead. "Yes, I do. They'll come looking for you again." Lyria lowered her head. "Because of my power." Evan shook his head. "Because they're afraid of you." Her eyes widened a little. No one had ever said it that way before. She wasn't a joke. She wasn't a burden. She was something powerful, something worth fearing. But even with those words in her heart, fear still gripped her. Every night she looked at the sky, searching for something she hoped would never appear. On the third night, it did. A low vibration spread through the air. The ground trembled. Evan ran outside and looked up, and his breath froze. An entire line of massive Imperial warships drifted into the atmosphere, like giant shadows. Their metal bodies reflected the moonlight. There were not one or two ships. There were dozens. Maybe more. Lyria stepped out behind him and gasped. No, he sent the fleet." Evan's chest tightened. "Your father?" Lyria nodded slowly. "If the Emperor himself sent this many ships, he wants me erased, completely." The sky glowed red as the warships opened their landing bays. Smaller attack ships flew downward like angry birds made of steel. The wind howled as engines roared. "We have to hide," Evan said quickly. Lyria grabbed his wrist. "If they find me here, they'll destroy this whole town. They don't care about humans. They don't care about anything." Evan met her eyes. "Then we won't let them find you." He led her back inside the garage. The machines were ready, the traps prepared, the shields humming with energy. But Evan knew the truth. This wasn't a fight they could win easily. Lyria sat down heavily on a reinforced chair Evan built for her. Her hands shook. "Maybe I should just surrender." Evan spun around. "No, absolutely not. It will save you," she whispered. Evan stepped closer and held her trembling hand. "Lyria, your life matters. I'm not letting them take you." Lyria's eyes softened, full of fear and confusion. "Why do you care this much?" "I'm not impressive. I'm not beautiful. I'm not strong like other aliens." Evan knelt in front of her. "You're stronger than you think. You survived your own empire. You survived hunters. And I don't care about what your father says. You deserve to live." Lyria covered her mouth, overwhelmed. No one had ever said words like that to her. Outside, the ground shook again. A loud metallic voice echoed from the sky. "Subject Lyria of the Imperial line, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in destruction." Evan looked up. "They're scanning the area." Lyria felt panic rising inside her chest. Her skin flickered with tiny sparks of blue energy. "Evan, my power is waking. I can't control it." Evan held her wrists gently. "Then we'll learn. We will figure this out. But what if I hurt you?" she whispered. Evan smiled faintly. "Then I'll survive. I'm tougher than I look." Lyria tried to smile, but fear crushed it. Outside, the Emperor's soldiers began landing. Giant mechanical walkers touched down on the sand. Armored troops marched forward with glowing weapons. Evan pushed a button. Hidden shields activated around the garage, humming with bright blue light. "This is it," he said. "They're here." Lyria took a deep breath. Her body glowed slightly, her power responding to the danger for the first time. She didn't try to hide it. The fleet had arrived. The battle was coming. And this time, Lyria was ready to face it, not as a joke, not as a mistake, but as someone worth protecting. The first blast hit the desert ground like thunder. Sand exploded upward, shaking every wall of the garage. Evan grabbed Lyria's hand and pulled her behind a pile of reinforced metal plates. The shields around the garage flickered under the impact. "They've started." Evan whispered. Lyria's breath grew heavy. Her skin glowed faintly, tiny sparks crawling across her arms. She tried to calm her breathing, but fear pushed the energy out of her control. She knew what that meant: another explosion, another shockwave she might not manage. "I'm scared," she whispered. Evan turned to her. "Good. Only a fool isn't scared. But fear doesn't mean we stop." Outside, Imperial soldiers marched across the junkyard. Spotlights scanned the desert, searching for the Emperor's dangerous daughter. Metal walkers stomped forward, shaking everything with each heavy step. Drones floated above the garage, firing small probing lasers. One of the drones found the shield and fired a bright beam. The barrier flared like a blue flame. Evan cursed under his breath. "They're testing it." A voice boomed from a loudspeaker. "Subject Lyria, step out. Failure to comply will result in total destruction." Lyria flinched. Evan grabbed his wrench and stood up. "Not happening." He pressed a button on his wrist device. Suddenly, large mechanical arms rose from the ground. Homemade battle machines Evan had built from spare parts. Each one armed with welding torches, metal cutters, and old mining claws. The machines charged forward. The first Imperial soldier fired. Evan's machine took the hit and kept marching, claws swinging. It grabbed the soldier and tossed him into the sand like a rag doll. More soldiers advanced. Evan ducked behind a broken engine block as lasers fired over his head. But Lyria didn't hide. She stepped forward, her large body glowing brighter with each moment. Her breathing grew stronger, deeper, and the ground vibrated under her feet. "Lyria, wait!" Evan shouted, but she wasn't listening to fear anymore. She raised her hands and closed her eyes. Her power responded instantly. Blue light burst around her body like a living storm. A soldier aimed at her. She opened her eyes and the air cracked. A shockwave shot from her chest. Soldiers flew backward. Drones spun out of control and crashed into the sand. A walker sank into its own boots as the energy melted its joints. Lyria gasped and fell to her knees. Evan ran to her. "Are you okay?" I didn't mean to use that much," she panted. "I can't control the strength." Evan brushed sand off her face. "It was perfect. You saved us." But more soldiers were coming. A whole new wave marched forward with heavier armor and stronger weapons. Evan's machines were being destroyed. One by one, a laser beam hit the shield generator. It sparked and exploded. The barrier collapsed. "They broke through," Evan said. Lyria forced herself up, trembling. "I have to stop them." Evan shook his head. "Not alone. We do this together." He ran to a large, half-finished mech suit he had built for hauling engines. He jumped inside, activated the power core, and the metal giant slowly lifted itself. Lyria stared, surprised. "Evan, you built that?" He smirked inside the cockpit. "I build everything." The mech marched forward, fists raised. Evan punched the nearest soldier, sending him flying. Lyria followed beside the mech, her body glowing again. Lasers flew. Evan blocked them with the mech's arm. Lyria absorbed one beam, her body lighting up like a charged battery. Then she released it. A beam of pure blue light shot forward, slicing through a line of enemy walkers. Evan whistled. "Okay. You're amazing." Lyria almost smiled, but then the ground trembled again. A giant shadow fell over them. A massive Imperial dropship landed just outside the garage, bigger than anything they had faced so far. Its doors opened slowly. Evan froze. Lyria's glow dimmed. Because stepping out of the ship, wearing golden armor, eyes filled with cold cruelty, was the Emperor himself. He had come to finish the job personally. The Emperor stepped onto the sand with slow, heavy steps. His golden armor glowed in the moonlight, and each movement sent ripples of power through the air. He looked at Lyria with cold, cruel eyes, as if she were a stain on his empire, not his daughter. Lyria's body trembled. The glow around her faded. "Father," she whispered. The Emperor raised a hand for silence. "Do not call me that," he said sharply. "You are no daughter of mine. You are a failure. A shame to my blood." Evan clenched his jaw inside the mech suit. "She's not a failure," he shouted back. "You are." The Emperor turned his gaze toward Evan. "And you? A human mechanic, weak, pitiful. You dare speak for her?" Evan stepped forward, metal feet sinking into the sand. "She's stronger than you'll ever be." The Emperor smirked. "Strength without control is nothing. She cannot even hold her own power." Lyria lowered her head, pain cutting through her chest. His words always found the deepest wound. But Evan wasn't done. "She doesn't need your approval," he said. "She only needed someone to believe in her." The Emperor raised his hand. A bright sphere of red energy formed in his palm. "Enough. I will erase you both." Lyria gasped, "No." The Emperor fired the energy blast. Evan barely managed to block it with the mech's arms. The explosion pushed him backward, metal screeching loudly. Sparks burst from the suit's joints. "Evan!" Lyria cried, "I'm fine." He shouted, but the mech was badly damaged. The Emperor charged another blast. This one would kill Evan. Lyria moved. She stepped in front of Evan, her large body shielding him completely. The energy hit her full force. The ground cracked beneath her feet. Her body glowed brighter than ever before. The Emperor froze. Lyria didn't fall. She stood tall, strong, unshaken. Her voice didn't tremble anymore. "You tried to throw me away," she said. "You called me a joke. A mistake. You tried to erase me." Her glow intensified like a star waking from sleep. "But I am still here." The Emperor fired again, desperate. This time she absorbed the blast like it was nothing. Evan stared in awe. She wasn't losing control. She was directing it. For the first time in her life, her power obeyed her. Lyria lifted her hand. Blue energy swirled around her arm like a storm. "You feared me because you knew the truth," she said. "That I am stronger than you." The Emperor took a step back. Lyria released her power. A wave of blue energy shot forward, hitting the Emperor's armor and melting it instantly. The golden plates dripped like liquid metal. The Emperor fell to his knees, screaming as the energy tore through his weapons. His own army watched in horror. Then one soldier kneeled. Then another. And another. Within moments, the entire Imperial force bowed before Lyria. The Emperor gasped for breath. "Lyria, stop." She stepped closer. "I'm not your shame anymore." Then she looked at Evan. Her eyes softened. "I'm someone worth protecting." Evan climbed out of the broken mech and limped toward her. She towered over him, glowing softly now. He held out his hand. She stared at it, confused. No one had ever reached for her, not without fear or disgust. Evan smiled gently. "What do you want now, Lyria?" Her eyes filled with emotion, fear, hope, disbelief, and something warm. She took his hand carefully, as if it were precious. "I want to stay with you," she whispered. Evan squeezed her hand. "Then stay. I want you here." Behind them, the Emperor lay defeated. The army knelt. The night was quiet again. Lyria stood tall, her glow fading into a calm blue shimmer. She wasn't a joke. She wasn't a monster. She wasn't a mistake. She was a new empress, and beside her stood the human mechanic who saw her not as a burden, but as something priceless. Together, they changed the galaxy. Asterisk.